So in our last session, we managed to create a chart of accounts, and we look all the processes of creating chart of accounts, things to do with structure name, the application applicable in creating chart of account, special feature like accounting key flex field. We created segment values, and we ended up with a simple chart of account. So in today's class or session, I would like us to look at a few things which will take us more to understanding probably how or why do we need to have the creation of a primary ledger. In most cases, you might find the primary ledger being referred to as the ledger. So, but basically you might find there is primary ledger and secondary ledger. We will look at them in a different session. But basically the primary ledger is the main ledger that is used to reporting, or the main reporting and recording of transaction of an organization. Sometimes we might have a secondary ledger whereby data may be exchanged due to the nature of business. So sometimes instead of creating a different or a new primary ledger due to different in transaction or in the nature of transaction that an organization might have, probably from its subsidiaries or from its sister company, you might find we might need to have a secondary ledger that will feed the primary ledger instead of having more than one primary ledger. But we'll look at that on a single or a different session. So before we go to create the primary ledger, there is something I want us to look at, the feature called multi-org structure. So multi-org in full, it means multi. This is multi-org. In full, it means multiple organization structure. So, and why is it multiple organization structure? So this is the capability of Oracle system whereby you can be able to have more than one organization under the same implementation or under single implementation based on the nature of an organization. So you will find, for instance, I mentioned about business group. Can you remember what information we maintain in business group? In all this information, or in all these, the nature of the structure, the way I have, mapped it here, it has different information that it holds. But initially, I had mentioned about the business group and the information that it holds. Can you remember? I expect Dennis, we are with you in our last session when I mentioned about business group, the creation of business group, and we created one.
Yes, we did. I'm trying to figure out a question which you're asking. You're asking the business group.
Yes. What information do we maintain in the business group?
We were maintaining the location and then what the type of the business that we are doing it. Then, of course, the start date, that the name of the business group. For instance, you are talking about the Safaricom headquarters, SAFHQ.
All right. So basically, in a very high level, the reason why we maintain business group is because we usually maintain the employee information in the level of business group. That is the primary goal of the business group feature. So the moment we are creating a business group, because we want to make, there's no anywhere else the information for employee will be mapped apart from the business group. So now that we know that business group, we maintain the information for employee. The question is, for you to decide how many, you can create more than one business group. And that's why we have the name multi, because it's multiple organization. So you can be able to create more than one organization and maintain the information that you want, like for instance, the way we have said the business group. But now the question is, when you are implementing, how many business group do you need? How many business group do you need? Because you have been given room to create more than one. But what are the conditions? What are the, what are the prerequisites? What are the terms that will guide you when deciding whether you will maintain more than one business group? So what happens is, basically, for instance, if you are maintaining, for instance, a company, or you're implementing for a company that it's only in one country, you will only require one BG. Okay, you will require one BG per country. So it's very, very much important to not confuse, because you'll find there are so many things applies per the nature of information you're maintaining for employees. And one of the information you'll find is even the kind of currency you are paying them with. So you'll find, if for instance you are implementing for a certain company and it is only having its operations in a single country, you'll only need to have one business group, and it will be enough to maintain all the employees' information. But for instance, you find there might be a situation whereby you will need to maintain information or do implementation in different countries where an organization is having an operation as well. So you might find, if for instance, service having operation in Kenya, and also it has an operation in Ethiopia. So you'll find, if you're implementing for such an organization, you need to go and create more than two business group, or more than one business group, because you'll have to need to maintain business group employee information for employees in Kenya, and probably information for employees who are working in Ethiopia, because the kind of regulations, the kind of maybe even the terms of employment, you'll find they are strict per country. So for the purpose and for the good operation and standard best practice, you'll need to create two business group. But basically, it is recommended to have only one business group per country. So I'm explaining this so that you can be able to have a picture of multi-org when it comes to implementation of a business or a system, whereas even the client themselves might not be knowing whether they need it to be set in a multi-org structure, or they even don't know whether the system can hold such a capability. That is business group. Is there any question on that? If there is any question, you let me know. Okay. So the second thing is about the primary ledger. Primary ledger, we call it PL. So what happens is primary ledger has to be created. I talked about 4 C's in our previous sessions. Okay. I talked about the 4 C's. We have the calendar. The 4 C's are the ones that will help us to create, or we use to create the primary ledger. So we have the calendar, we have currency, we have chart of account, or call it COA, and we have accounting methods. Okay, so with these, you can be able to create the primary ledger. But how do you determine how many primary ledger do you create? Okay, so in some situation, you might find the calendar is different from the calendar of one organization. It's different from the other. So for instance, when I talk about the calendar, you might find there is a calendar that is starting at probably at 1st Jan 2024, and it ends at 31st Jan 2020. I mean DEC 2024. So this is a calendar starting from the beginning of the calendar year, or a calendar, yeah, call it calendar year because that's what we refer it to within the system. So from 1st of January 2024 to 31st DEC 2024, that's a calendar. And as well, you can get another organization which has, probably I can bring these ones somewhere here down, which has a calendar that starts from maybe on 1st of Feb, okay, 2024. Then it has to end at 31st Jan 2025. Okay, so all these two are calendars which are being used for this. This is an accounting calendar. Don't wonder which kind of calendar am I talking about. When it comes to the best term to use is the accounting calendar. So for your information is that you might find when you have a group of companies, one company might be having a calendar that needs to end before the other, or the others has to start before the other. So that when it comes to reporting, there is one that its consolidation of financial reports has to be done before the major company, or maybe probably the parent company. Okay, for the parent company. Once now, the parent company being the last one to report, the other subsidiary companies needs to report or to prepare their financial reports before the parent companies, and that in such scenario you might find they might need a different accounting calendar. So the other thing is, so in such case you might find you may need either to go with an extra primary ledger, or based on the data that you'll be sharing, you may need to go for a secondary ledger. Okay, but now this one you'll understand more, for you to be able to know like whether you'll go for the more than one primary ledger or you'll go for the secondary ledger. You have to understand what does the secondary ledger mean, and what information can the secondary ledger share with the primary ledger. But that one is a case for another day. What I want you to understand for here is that there are scenarios where you can have more than one primary ledger. But basically, what you're supposed to know, per country, you should have one PL, that is per country. Basically, you should have one PL. It's per country or probably per implementation. You may need one primary ledger. So, and in primary ledger, we usually map it to the GL and map the fixed asset. So those are the two modules that are directly mapped to the primary ledger. So it's very, very much also to understand that, so that in the future, when now you start working with the system, you can be able to know, like, if a certain thing happened, where can I start to troubleshoot that information? For instance, if HRML consultants get an issue with the employee information, they must also have to know how does the business group look like. Has it been assigned to the right information or to the right responsibility? Are the right profile options, the correct profile options have been assigned to the business group for the purpose of handling employee information? So these are the things that you will find probably in prior consultants who maybe installed or did the configuration or the setup. Sometimes we usually meet client with bad experience from former consultants who did some not good work when it comes to implementation because of their competence level. So you will find these issues coming up, but without proper understanding of how the structure looks like or should be, you might take time to troubleshoot the issue and be able to give a solution to your client. So it's very, very much important to know that, like in the business group level, we usually map the employee information, and when it comes to primary ledger, we map the general ledger information versus fixed asset. So the other time when you can have a primary ledger that needs to be created more than one, it's when probably the currency that is used for reporting is different. So you might find an organization which has two currency of reporting. So you will need to have more than one primary ledger, each having a different currency, because we said we usually use 4Cs to create a chart of accounts, and one of the C is the currency. So if the currency happens to be different, definitely we'll have to go for an additional primary ledger. Then another thing is the chart of accounts. If we have tried to combine the different chart of accounts that are there when it comes to the segments available, for instance, we might have a segment or a chart of account with probably 7 segments. Okay, and we also have another chart of accounts probably with 9 segments. Okay, all these, for instance, we can have Legion. Let me write them down. We can have something like maybe country. Okay, we have company, we have department or cost centers. Okay, call them department. And then we have account.
Christmas,
Yes,
sorry
please.
to interrupt. Are you having a different working place? Because it seems still stuck on this Excel, and I'm not seeing typing those other.
Yeah, sorry for that. Have you been seeing this? Have you been Can you be able to see the multi-org structure?
Now, so you are seeing the other screen, the other Excel part.
Sorry for that. I shared one screen and moved without knowing. Apologies for that. So when it comes to multi-org, this is what I'm talking about. Okay. So when it comes to business group, I've mentioned we usually maintain one. That is per country. And now we're in the level of the primary ledger. Are you able to see this? Please confirm for me.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So with that, I've explained about the calendar. It's one of the costs that can lead us to have more than one primary ledger, PL. Okay. Then the second one I've mentioned about the currency. Okay. Then we have the chart of accounts. And with the chart of accounts, the major thing that will bring us to have a difference is then probably the number of segments. Okay, you might find like the segments in company A, okay, are different from segment in company B, and also maybe company C if it's there. Okay, so with that, you'll find if we have like 7 segments, I was in under account, you might have a line of production or line of product, call it line of product. You might have a project. How many are these? 1, 2, 3, 4. These are even more. So, let me remove these two. Okay. So that we can have project. And then we have future one. I explained about what it means by future one and future two. Okay. So with this, I can tell we have 7 segments. So here we have about, let's create about 9. So we have legion, or we have country. We have something like cost center. Okay. We have account. You might have something like call it what, employees. Okay. You might find you have something like line of product. You need to have projects. How many are they? These are 7, right? Then you have future one, and future 2. So there's a way you can work and assume maybe here we have another one for maybe 5 segments. Okay. So these are different chart of accounts. But as an accountant, or I mean as a functional consultant, you're supposed to sit down and advise the business. Try as much as possible to have one COA. Okay. The moment you have one COA, you can be easing things in a very big manner. So what you usually come and look at is what do you have here or which segments do you have in company A, and maybe you have them in company B. Okay, so with this you can be able to combine the segment for company A and those one of company B and come up with one COA. So for instance, we have company here. We missed company. We were supposed to put company here. Let's put it like that. Okay, it's fine. So you'll find we have region, we have country, we have company. Region and country, we don't have them in company B. I mean company A. So what we'll do, but we have company A, company, and we have company here. We have department and we have cost center. These means the same. Company, department and cost centers, mostly you'll find they are mapped to same flex field qualifier. I talked about flex field qualifier in our previous session. Segment qualifier. We call it flex field segment qualifier. Okay. So there is no need of having a department and cost center being two segments. You can combine these and become one. The same case, this company refers to the same company. Okay. So at the end of the day, we will have consumed these two. Okay. Account is the same as account. They are mapped to the same segment qualifier or flex field segment qualifier. Then the only thing, then we have project. Okay. So you have project, remove that. Also remove this account. Then we have future 1 and future 2. Future 1 and future 2 are here. So what the only thing that we have left with is line of product. So you can come now and add your segment of line of product. You carry it from here and you add it there. You end up becoming with just one chart of account. But now you have to be very keen because we agreed like you have to check on the limit. We said like when you are creating chart of account, you have a requirement of minimum 2 segments. Minimum 2 segments. And you have maximum 30 segments. But it's also advisable you have to be keen not to use more than 10 segments in a single chart of accounts. This is not more than 10 segments in a single COA, because this one will affect the performance of your system. So this is very much important. So when it comes to such a scenario, if it has not been possible for you to come up with a single chart of accounts for all the applicable companies, it could be more than 3 companies. Now that's where you may need to come up to to create the second primary ledger. I hope that one is clear. In case you have a question, you just raise or you unmute and you mention so that we don't skip it. So that is primary ledger, and that's why before it's the next thing that we need to create when it comes to configuration or definition or setup of the system, we will go direct to the primary ledger. But before knowing how many primary ledger, before creating the primary ledger, it's very much important to understand why do we need primary ledger and how many can we create. So basically is per country 1, but if need be, all these conditions, if you happen to sit with the client in terms of requirement gathering, you need to understand how many segments they have, how many business. First thing is how many companies they might need to maintain. In those companies, do they need each company to have a unique and individual chart of account? If so, they should support the requirement of more than one chart of accounts. Once they give you, if you can be able to sit down and analyze the chart of accounts and come up with one, the better. So with that, it will ease work and you'll end up creating just one primary ledger. So that is primary ledger. The second level is the legal entity. So legal entity, when we talk about legal entity, it's all about the registration, business registration. So for instance, we usually have natural person and artificial person. So for natural person is just like we human being. But when it comes to artificial person, when you register a business or a company, it becomes as if it's referred to as a person because it has some legal recognition. So with that kind of legal recognition, it can own asset, it can sue, it can be sued. So with that kind of registration, the company gets some attributes or characteristics which can be related to that of a human person or natural person. So when we talk about legal entity, it's all about the registration of a business. So how many business have you registered, or have you made them be recognized as artificial persons in terms of business operations? So what happens is, when you sit with the client, you need to understand how many business have they registered different. Have they only registered once? And you see, through registrations also comes the responsibility of tax obligations. So you will find as many businesses you have registered or an organization has registered, probably they will need to have legal obligation or tax obligation differently. So what happens is, when it comes to legal entity definition, you can create as much as possible legal entities as per the number of registrations the companies has or an organization has. So this one depends with number of registrations available. Okay, registrations available. So each and every registered business, will have its own legal entity, because it will have its reporting and different obligations, even in the nature of tax and other things. So that is about the legal entities. It's all about the number of registration that has been are present for that company or for that organization. There could be a number of businesses, like what I was talking about last time when we are doing the creation of chart of accounts. I talked about an organization which might be having banking, which might be having insurance, others might be having some kind of business like mining. So if they happen to register these businesses individually, it means that each and every business has different obligations when it comes to different recognition that maybe the regulating authorities applies. For instance, tax, one of them. I hope that one is clear. So then under legal entity, we usually have operating units. And operating units or OUs, this one we usually map them as per the number of branches. So you might find an operating unit, it's being looked at as a branch. It's kind of, just basically take it as a branch. So you can have as much, the number of branches you might have, or units, call them units, branches. What's the other name that we can use? Sometimes you can find others calling them centers, So the names will be meaning the same thing, but you might find probably it's different from what a different organization is referring to it. So what happens is that when you are doing implementation, you can create as many operating units as the number of branches available. I hope that one is clear, because one branch will be under a certain company, and you'll find like a company has a number of branches that are reporting to it. So operating unit, it's nothing like but the branch or a unit or a center. Okay, so and we usually map operating units or we usually map the following 4 or rather even more responsibilities or applications, that is AP, AR, purchasing, and order management. Minimally, those are the common ones. Now, the common ones that are used for basic operations, because we have AP, which is handling payables, AR, handling accounts receivables, PO, we said PO means purchasing in terms of application, and also PO means purchase order when it comes to documents. Then we have OM, order management. So these are the applications that are, or responsibility that are mapped to the operating units, because in other words, we refer to them as subledgers. So the subledgers are the ones that operate mostly on the level of branches. But now, when it comes to feeding information, this subledger, they have to feed it to GL. If you remember, when I was training or taking you through the P2P session and order to cash, I talked about AP feeding information to GL, and also AR and PO. So these one are maintained or are operated mostly under the level of operating units, so that they can be able to feed the GL with the information that they will have captured, be it supplier information, be it supplier invoices, be it supplier payments, be it customer receipts, customer invoices, credit memo, and all that have to be fed to the GL by the branches or the operating units from the level of operating units. So you can create as many operating units as the number of branches you have. I hope that one is clear. So with the final one is inventory organization. So we usually maintain just the inventory information. We don't have much. It's all about inventory information. So, and when it comes to the number of information that we can maintain under inventory organization, I mean the number of organization we can create is as per the number of inventory, or call them warehouses, that we might need to have. So if we have, what we usually do, we usually have master organization, master inventory organization. Through master inventory organization, we don't maintain, it's like a virtual inventory. Actually call it virtual inventory because we don't maintain any physical information for it. So it usually maintain information for the purpose of holding the information for the actual, call it physical inventory. So we can create as many number of inventory organization as the number of physical organizations that are there on the ground. So I hope you understand that differences and you can be able to explain the multi-org. That's how the structure of the multi-org looks like. Is there any question? So it's good you map whatever you'll be seeing us doing. It's good you map it now from the theoretical way I'm explaining here. It's also good for you to take this picture now to the system and be able now to have the clear picture of theory and practical. So in short, these are some of the organizations that for us to do proper implementation, we have to define all this. And so far we have defined business group. So far, the other things that we have defined, although they are not related in the nature of the structure, but they have to be there, are the responsibilities. We define the general ledger responsibility, we define the fixed asset, we defined cash management, we defined AP, that is payable, AR, purchasing, order management. We didn't define, because we want to, or we are dealing basically with the financial modules, and I explained why. But in one way or the other, we look on the high level. Like for instance, the BG is not about finance, but you see, for you to understand the picture of implementation, it's very, very much important to know that this is how the structure of multi-org structure look like. So even if you will be implementing, when it comes to assigning the all responsibility to the BG, you have to wait for the HRMS team to create the BG. This is not our work as a finance functional consultant. Our work is not to define business group. You will have to wait for the human resource functional consultant to define it, because you have to work as a team. When it comes to implementation, you have to work as a team. There's a team for finance, there's a team for HRMS, there's a team for SCM. Okay. So all these, being the major group of implementation, needs to work together. I also mentioned about the project manager, or the key resource. You have the project manager, We have functional consultant, we have technical consultant, and we have the DBA, that is database administrator. Those key resources, you have to work them to accomplish all this. And I explain each and every one, lol. But now, our class or our session is about the functional consultant. That's why I said we'll be touching some of the other family products of Oracle, but we will not be going into details. Okay. So that is that. Now we can look on how, or in the system, how we can define the primary ledger. And we'll, in our case, because we are not implementing for like multi-org, we will be looking at the single primary ledger implementation or definition. So already we have accounting calendar, we have currency, we have chart of account, and we have accounting methods. This one we select. I keep on repeating. We select because it's there in the system. It is seeded. We call it seeded. Seeded is the one that comes with the system. You don't have to define it. Chart of account we create. Already it's done. Currency we enable. Okay. All the currencies of all current countries that are in the world, they are in the system. So you just need to go and enable it. And by enable it, it's just a matter of checking a checkbox somewhere in the system along, beside the currency that you need to use. Then we have the accounting calendar. This one we have to create. We have to create or define. And already we have one. So that's why we can now proceed to creation of primary ledger. Okay. So what am I sharing right now? Okay. So already I had logged in our system, our learning system. These are the modules that we created for those who are not present when we are doing this. So we created the cash management super user, fixed asset super user, general ledger super user, global HLMS. Then we have payable super user, purchasing super user, receivable super user, and now we have the sysadmin. But this one we never defined. This is seeded. It's only that we assigned it to our user, K Martin. So it's very much now you observe the navigation, because some of the tricky thing that people forget when they are learning this solution is when it comes to navigation, they forget. And without knowing the navigation, you might not be able to do the configuration or even get to the to use the feature that probably you are desired to. So for the purpose of creation of or defining the primary ledger, the navigation is under general ledger. So our class, we are learning more about general ledger right now, and we'll continue expounding more for the same, but we are still in the level of defining and setting up our system. After now, we have done all the setup for each and every module, because defining the module is one thing, or responsibility is one thing. You have now to go deep and create some setup. We'll need to do some setup for cash management, some for fixed asset, general ledger, where we are right now. HRMS will not go back, because we don't have much of HRMS requirement when it comes to setup. And that's why I was saying, like, we only touch the most important, the basic one that we need to work with when it comes to finance modules or finance, financials, Oracle financials. Then we look at the payable module. We'll need to do the setup. Purchasing will not go much deep. We'll do the basic ones. Then we have the receivable. Receivable is all about finance. We have to do the setup in this. So currently, for your information, we are going on with general ledger setup. So we expand our responsibility. Navigation is setup, creation of primary ledger, financials, accounting setup manager. Okay, accounting setup. So what I would like you to do is, when we are learning, you can be noting down the navigation in this manner. We are creating, call it primary ledger. Okay, into bracket is PL. Okay. So for our primary ledger, can give it which color? Bluish. Okay. So one thing you need to understand is the responsibility. Responsibility we don't write in full. We write RSP, then column, full column. So responsibility is general ledger super user. Okay. Then you know the navigation. Okay. The navigation, this is now what will direct you to the page or the form that you will work on to define the primary ledger. So for instance, or for our case, the navigation is set up. Okay. You can put something like this as an arrow. Okay. I have set up financials. Set up financials. Okay. Accounting setup manager. Okay. Accounting setup. Completed all the navigation, the whole path. Setup, accounting setup manager, accounting setups. So it's very, very much to be noting your navigation in this manner. Actually, even if when you'll be doing the documentation, probably you're creating a document maybe for a user. For instance, like a user manual. Sometimes you might need, you have trained a user, and after training them, maybe probably you need to follow up with a or support them more with a user manual. So it's very much important to have your manual with this kind of path or navigation, so that it will be easy for the user to know where you are coming from. If it's the responsibility, they can know this is the responsibility you are talking about. If it's the navigation, I need to go under setup. There are so many things. So where specifically should I go to or through under setup? So that's how we maintain. So when we are under, let me open this. So under accounting setup manager, you can see now this icon here, like I explained some time back. It's different from this one, which we have a graphical image here. This is more of a page. This is more of a graph. And I said, and I will repeat again, when we are seeing like the feature that you're about to click has this kind of graph. It means it will open Oracle forms or Oracle Java forms. But when you see this one like a page, it will open, it will take you to the web page. So you should know, like when it comes to accounting setups, you will open it and it will take you to a web page kind of. So once I click it, it is loading. Now you can see this one is different. This is now the page. So under this page, there's so many things you can be able to do. But this primarily, this is where we start the journey of defining the primary ledger. If you see here, there's several information. There's so many things about this page. We will learn as per the need comes, or as per the progress of the session. So what happens is, when it comes to the accounting setup manager, I want us to read this statement here up. The accounting setup manager enables you to set up and implement your Oracle financial applications from one location. Each accounting setup you define includes the common setups components that control transaction processing across Oracle financial applications. So what does that mean? When you are defining the accounting setup, you must be having the basic of what the company or the organization needs to control, because there are so many controls you can enable, others you can define, others are rules you can define them. You need to understand the requirement of the client so that you can be able to come and enable them. But some, they don't come straight. You might find you will need to have like now, for instance, if I give you an example, this week there's a demo I'll be doing for budget for one of our clients, and we did the implementation in 2021. So they said like they would adapt the budget feature after the implementation, but until then they have never adapted. So this is the time that they want it to be. They want to the solution or the feature for budget to be implemented, and that feature, it has to be enabled through the accounting setup feature. So what am I trying to say? You might find there are so many features that are under accounting setup feature, but it doesn't mean like you have to set up everything at a go. You might need to just set up the basic, and that's what we will be doing, but the rest, it will go as per the requirement. Another example I can give is about another client whereby they have two operating units. So under two operating units, you will find not even two operating units, they have two legal entities. So you'll find one legal entity might need to transfer funds from one legal entity to the other, or transfer funds from a bank of one legal entity to the bank of the other. So there are some rules that has to be defined first, so that one legal entity can be able to transfer funds from it to the other legal entity. But remember, both are under the same group of company. So those are just for your information to understand that this accounting setup have so many setup you can define based on the nature of your client or the nature of the implementation you'll be doing. With that chit chat, it is enough. Or something else I can talk about here, it's about the status key. So when you're defining your primary ledger, because basically this is about creation of defining the primary ledger first. It has stages, and one stage is the complete. So if, for instance, I come and query here, this ledger means it's the one that I'm referring to as primary ledger. It's good for you to understand it's the primary ledger when it comes to implementation, because we have different ledgers. We have sub-ledgers, we have primary ledger, we have secondary ledger. So it's very, very, very much for a consultant to understand which ledger are you being, or someone is referring to. So in our case here, we are referring to the primary ledger. So a primary ledger, when defining it, it can have different stages or status. And that's why you have these icons here showing you like the status of your primary ledger if you have started working on it. So when it is a tick, it means it is completed, that green tick. When it is in progress, you can see there is an icon for like a wall clock showing it is in progress. When it has not been started, you have this blue square. I hope my eyes are seeing well. It's bluish, right? So with that, you can be able to track your primary ledger as you define it until you reach the completed status. This one, green tick. So for instance, this Go, you can use it to query existing primary ledger. So for instance, there is one I had defined for MAV, and I click Go. So you can just type the name. You don't need to type everything. And you click on Go. The system should query that primary ledger, and you will see the status. So you see, like for instance, under the search by field, you have create accounting setup. Then we have the ledger type, associated primary ledger, status, accounting options. So what happens is that the system can tell you there is no search has been conducted here down. But now I want to do a search. Before I show you how to create the primary ledger, it's very good you understand this process. Again, there is now the steps of defining this accounting setup. You will start with the primary ledger, and that's where we have the create the accounting structure. That's what is being referred as. Primary ledger is what being referred to as the accounting structure. And it's not just the name of the primary ledger, but the whole process until you get that status being completed. So first thing you have to do is the create accounting structure. Then you have go to the level of defining accounting options. Then you go to complete accounting setup. So all this is what we'll go through when it comes to defining a primary ledger. But now, for instance, let's look at what we have already defined in the system. I hope it will query. Sorry. Yeah, exactly. So this is what I was talking about. So because I've queried the map and it's already defined in the system, we can be able to see that the system will give us what has been associated with that name that we have provided. So we have the ledger name. This ledger is the name that you give to your ledger when creating it. is a field where you are supposed to provide the ledger name. Then what type is it? I said we have different ledgers. So this is the primary ledger. You can see now the system is telling you that this is primary ledger. So associated primary ledger is just the same there, the MAV primary ledger, it doesn't have any other. But if we could be having something like a secondary ledger, you could see it, and it is associated to this, you could see it showing here like we have a certain secondary ledger associated to this primary ledger we have. You can see the status here, what I was talking about. This one is complete because it has been created and defined fully. But now we have room for update. We can be able to update this primary ledger. And through this updating, that's where now I was talking about. There are so many other controls or other applicable rules, different accounting options. Just as the word or the heading is calling it, they are accounting options. You can have different options of accounting which you can define or you can select based on the requirement of your implementation or of a certain company that probably you are giving some system support. So with that, what happens is when it comes now to defining the primary ledger, you will go to this button, which is create accounting setup. So you select it. I hope you are seeing my page. I'm not talking as without your follow-up. Once you select the create accounting setup, the system will bring you to a window where you're supposed to assign legal entities. But in this level, you have not even defined even your legal entity. You are in the level of defining the primary ledger. So what you're supposed to do here is to come and click next. I hope it's clear up to that level. Once you have selected next, the system will bring you to accounting setup, define accounting presentations. Under defining accounting presentations, now this is where you can be able to provide the specification of your primary ledger. Okay. So, like for instance, the name we had on the other already defined primary ledger, the MAV primary ledger, that name I provided it here. So you can see these subheadings have some asterisks, meaning they are mandatory. We have to provide that information. And that's why I said, if you can remember, I talked about 4 C's. When you talk about 4 C's, don't count this name. The 4 C's is the chart of accounts. Here it is. Accounting calendar, currency, and accounting method. So, how do we create primary ledger? You can be asked such a question probably in an interview. So, you can say by providing the primary ledger name, by selecting chart of account, by selecting accounting calendar, by selecting currency, and selecting accounting method, you can define the primary ledger. I hope that one is clear. I talked about and mentioned about secondary ledger. I'm supposed to come here. I don't know who is copying it. Sorry for that. So I talked about secondary ledger, and I said it's something that will not go deep with in this level of learning, because currently what we are saying is that we are doing the basic. So when we come to understand the secondary ledger and how it does, that's when we'll come to this level. But you can see, you can have an idea that we have it here. So it means even if you know how to create the primary ledger and you know to navigate to accounting setup page, and you can go and do your leading in one way or the other, you might find yourself, you can even come and define a secondary ledger for yourself. But I'm not saying you to do that. So in our case, we are dealing with an organization by the name SAF or SAF, and we will provide the name of our primary ledger for SAF, which is SAF primary ledger. Okay. Once we provide the name, we can go ahead and provide the chart of accounts. I think also chart of accounts has SAF as a prefix. So you can type the first 3 letters, and if it's there, the system will auto populate it, or it will fetch it so that you can just select. So this is our chart of accounts name that we defined. You can select it. Then you come under accounting calendar. Then I think we also have SAF something. Yeah, this is our calendar, SAF accounting calendar, and it's SAF monthly. You select. Then here we have currency. Currency we are using Kenya shillings. Is this Kenya shillings or USD? Okay, I think it's Kenya shillings. So you select the currency. Then we have a subledger accounting method. So here we usually normally use accrual. See whether it is there. Not for user, but for Oracle. So if it's not fetching, you can use this search engine. Through the search engine, you can see it has different. You can have an option of maybe using search by either subledger accounting method, that is name, or subledger accounting method owner. Okay. So for instance, we will use the subledger accounting method and click go. System should show us all the subledger accounting methods that are available, and there they go. So what we usually use here, we usually use standard accrual for Oracle. This is the basic for accrual method when it comes to accounting. You know, in accounting we usually have either accrual or cash. So for best practices, we usually use the standard, because you'll find not many organizations will go for cash. Okay, and also you'll find others are a bit specific to some different different countries, whereby they have requested Oracle to define for them some accounting methods specifically for their application. See, for example, a country like Mexico, you don't know why they have it like this, unless now you go and understand their accounting way of accounting practices. That's where you know probably why they have Mexico standard cash. But for best practices, and many organizations, you will find they are using the standard accrual, and it's provided by Oracle. So you come and select. And for your information, It's important to note some of these things or to let you know. When you are selecting, there is quick select and there is checkbox, and you can select. Let me demonstrate a bit of it. So you can select here. Once you select here, you need to come and select it here again. But the moment you just select quick select, you see this quick select, you don't need to click 2 times. You click here and here again. You just select here and the system will select direct. So basically that's how we select or provide information when creating the primary ledger. I hope it's clear. For adding reporting currency, this is for the case of probably the currency that you have provided here as functional is different from the currency that you would like to report with. So that's why there are some scenarios where you might find some companies have the functional currency is not what they are reporting with. I hope it's clear. Once you have provided these 5 items, you are good to say next. Click on next. Once you click on next, okay, the system tells you there's an information here. Carefully review your accounting structure before saving. Once saved, you will be unable to change your primary ledger. To make changes, move back to the previous steps. So if you feel like you have not provided the right information, you can see there is this the information that you have provided is here down under ledgers. You're supposed to click on back and go and adjust the information that you find like it's not correctly maintained. So it's very good you review. It's just a room whereby the system is telling you, you review the information that you have provided before you click on finish, because finish is like saving. Once you save, you cannot make any change on this primary ledger. So when you are implementing for your client, it's very important to be keen in this level. So in our case, I don't think we have done any mistake. We only need to finish. So you click on finish. The system gives you a confirmation again and tells you, confirmation, accounting setup, SAF primary ledger has been saved successfully. You have just saved the accounting structure, SAF primary ledger. Before you can enter transaction and perform accounting, you must define the accounting options for this accounting setup. You can define the accounting options now or later. So basically, now when we are starting learning, you saw 3 steps. There is the step 1 of defining the structure, the accounting structure. Now the second one is defining the accounting options. That's what the system is telling you to. So you have the option of returning to accounting setups, and you have the option of defining accounting options. So with today's session, I want us to go up to this level, but we can query the primary ledger that we have defined and see the status, just like I had shown you before. So with that, let's return to accounting setups. So here we should be able to query the primary ledger that we have just defined and see the status, whether it's complete, in progress, or not started. So we provide the name is SAF and click on go. So this is what I was talking about. We have defined the creating accounting structure, but now we are supposed to define the accounting options. So this is our primary ledger. You can see the name, the type, the associated primary ledger, status. Because we have not gone all these 3 steps, the status is still in progress. And now the updating accounting option. So when it comes to completing, we'll come and click on update accounting option so that we can go to the level of completion. Is there any question?
None from my side.
Right, so if there are no question, I would like us to go up to that level. Then we'll pick up from tomorrow and on the defining the accounting options. So I'll share the recordings with you. Also, I'll share the instance so that you can start practicing. A few things now you should be practicing so that the understanding of the system become okay. So if there's nothing else,